Pope Francis and other church leaders have warned that some movements promoting the Latin Mass have undermined church unity in recent years. How important exactly is the Latin Mass, and do you think it'll be around in 20 years in Illinois?
Well, the latest instruction given by the Holy Father on the use of the Latin Mass acknowledges that instead of the ideal of accommodating, it has created division. It has divided us instead of united us. And of course, the Mass should be what unites us to the Lord first, and then to one another. I think that for some, there is certainly a beauty in the Latin Mass. And let's be clear, in the what is called the Novus Ordo, the new Mass, you can use Latin. You can, in fact, do the entire Mass in Latin. When we throw around the term Latin Mass, we're really talking about the Tridentine Mass. The extraordinary form is what we call it now. And so we have to first educate people, like, what are we actually talking about? Because people throw out the term Latin Mass and they're thinking that we're talking about one thing when we're really not. Yeah. There's a nostalgia with the Tridentine Mass for some, but the permissions that were given after the Second Vatican Council for the Tridentine Mass to continue were done to accommodate mainly old priests who had spent most of their priesthood celebrating Mass in the Tridentine Rite.
So the reason that we didn't make it mandatory to switch completely and do away with the Latin Mass was because there were so many older priests that had become accustomed to the Latin Mass?
It was to accommodate many of those priests. I can't tell you how many numbers of priests there was.
Sure,
you know.
Sure.
But, you know, and so I think there is a beauty to it, but it also does not create the sense of unity that the Church is all about. And that's why the bishops asked the Holy Father to look at this matter, and then obviously the Holy Father making a decision about that. The question is will it be around in 20 years? I think it will always be around to the extent that there are those that it feeds spiritually. I don't think it will be common. I think it will be more, I guess perhaps maybe say more occasional experiences to, again, show the beauty of how for centuries the Church worshipped in that way, but also not to confuse it with the way the Church worships today.
All right. Well said there. For all the people that were asking me to ask that, you know, there you have it. And while we're talking about things that are somewhat controversial within the Church, I'm just going to hit you with this. So, speaking of fear and political correctness, some stuff is going on in the media today, in the mainstream media and in the Catholic world especially. So recently in San Francisco, the Archbishop has banned Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi from receiving Holy Communion because of her stance on and support of abortion. Bishop Tylka, what are your honest thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, we have to respect life from its moment of conception to the moment that God calls us home, natural death. There should be a respect of life across the board. I am not in favor of denying anyone communion. I'm not in favor of creating a litmus test that you have to pass before we say to you, the body of Christ. I think that the Eucharist, which is the source and summit of our life, the Eucharist which unites us to the very life of Jesus, the Eucharist which could cause us to have that conversion necessary to change our minds, is something that should never be politicized and should always be freely given. If we start picking particular issues to say, this will make you either worthy or unworthy to receive communion, and thereby also denying that there are other issues of life that we should be very much concerned about. I mean, we're having this conversation a week and a half after 19 children were killed by gun violence. That's a life issue. And that, so do we want to start saying to people who are pro-gun that you are no longer worthy to receive communion? Because that's a life issue as well. So I am in favor of trusting in God's love and mercy. I am in favor that the Eucharist, which is central to who we are, can truly change people's minds and hearts. And I'm not in favor of politicizing it or pointing out that this person I deem unworthy.